century AD, the king says, come to war with me. Never mind, thou shalt not kill. We're dealing now with infidels. He raises highest sword and then he charges forth with all his men. With the blessing of the papacy, in a righteous tongue he screams the ends. They justify the means, my friends. Oh, the ends, they justify the means. They tell them life is nothing more than a weapon in a time of war. This is the only way we found to tear these mighty symbols down. In the cockpit now he starts to steer, so all the world will clearly hear these once benign flying machines shouting out of TV screens the ends. They justify the means, my friends. Oh, the ends, they justify the means. Talking heads are shouting now, working hard to break it down. His reasons get a little blurred. Justice is a household word. As the station's ratings soar, night vision cameras watch the war, while across a veil of sea we cheer the black and the flashing greens. The ends, they justify the means, my friend. Oh, the ends, they justify the means. The boss looks down upon it all from his tower's windowed walls. Says, I know how to play this game, and everybody knows my name. He preys upon the people's fears, tells them what they want to hear. They celebrate his victory on the front of tabloid magazines. The ends, they justify the means, my friends. Oh, the ends, they justify the means. Climbed upon a mountain high and spoke to every passerby. Everyone you ever knew is really just a part of you. They see the life you choose to live. They feel the hope you choose to give. And every word you ever say, you teach the world to live the way. When society had had enough, they beat him down and lifted him up. They crossed his feet, they raised his hands, and quietly he whispered then the means. They justify the ends, my friends. Oh, the means, they justify the ends, my friends. Oh, the means, they justify the ends.
Welcome to the Good Friday experience. And thank you for taking the time to gather and reflect on the significance of this moment. On Good Friday, we pause to experience the significant grief found in the death of Jesus. Every year on Good Friday, people gather to find meaning in death, to find hope in grief, and to make space for pain and disappointment.
On Good Friday, we reflect on the crucifixion of Jesus. The Roman cross is where Jesus' radical vision of peace through justice, compassion, and inclusion, it collided with the conventional wisdom of peace through violence and the politics of holiness and exclusion. The cross was those in power saying, no, to the radical vision of God and love incarnate in Jesus, a Jewish peasant who became, like the prophets, a voice of change and a voice of challenge. He was the leader of a non-violent resistance movement. He was a man who lived and died fully surrendered to love. Ultimately, tonight is an invitation to live the same way, to live fully surrendered to love.
In the hours leading up to his final words, "It is finished," Jesus experienced a range of human emotions. He found joy in sharing a meal with his closest friends. He experienced fear and stress as he thought about what was ahead of him. He felt the emotional pain and hurt of betrayal and false accusations. He would experience the height of physical pain through a crown of thorns, the lashes of the whip, and the fists of the soldiers.
And after all of that, it said, Luke 23 says, as they led him away, they took hold of a certain Simon, a Cyrenian, who was coming from the country, and laying the cross on him, they made him carry it behind Jesus. And a large crowd of people followed Jesus, including many women who mourned and lamented for him.
When they came to the place called the Skull, they crucified him and the criminals there, one on his right, the other on his left. Then Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do."
The people stood by and watched. The rulers, meanwhile, sneered at him and said, "He saved others. Let him save himself if he's the chosen one, the Messiah of God." And even the soldiers jeered him. And as they approached to offer him wine, they called out, "If you're the King of the Jews, save yourself." Above him there was an inscription that read, "This is the King of the Jews."
And it was now about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. because of an eclipse of the sun. Then the veil of the temple was torn down the middle.
Jesus cried out in a loud voice, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." And when he'd said this, he breathed his last.
Jesus has died. Rome has won yet again. Insurrection and treason will not be tolerated. The politics of holiness have yet again reminded the people of what is pure and impure. Cursed is the one who is hung on a tree. The image is clear. Jesus was a dangerous false prophet, and now his body would be discarded. For Pilate, the high priest, and those charged with Israel's safety, the danger of Jesus and his radical vision has been averted.
But for the followers of Jesus, the hope of Jesus and his radical message seems to have died as well. And the question that must have been immediately filled their minds must have been something like, what did that all mean?
Our Lent reflection this evening and our painting with Sister Wendy Beckett ponders just that question.
In art, there are few crucifixions that stress the inner truth of Jesus' death, that Christ accepted with enormous happiness, that he had accomplished all that his Father willed. Shortly before his death, Craigie Aitchison painted this extraordinary crucifixion. The world has been reduced to absolutes in which only nature is innocent. The earth has become desert, and yet Jesus draws new life, the scarlet of a poppy. The very presence of the cross has created a strip of living green against which we can make out Aitchison's beloved Bentlington dog. But above the land soars Christ on the cross, a luminous body blazing with the fire of love. His features are consumed in the intensity of his passionate sacrifice. Over his head hovers the skeletal outline of the Holy Spirit. There are stars in the sky catching fire from the fire of Jesus, and we see the great curve of the rainbow. a sign of God's covenant with humankind. Atchison is showing us not what the crucifixion looked like, but what it truly meant.
In Luke's story of the crucifixion, he gives us a powerful image, certainly through the lens of the resurrection faith, regarding the meaning of this violent and evil act. The image, the temple veil is torn in two. The physical symbol of separation and holiness is exposed as a lie in the murder of Jesus. Only the ultimate act of surrendering to love could finally and fully destroy the human invention of purity culture and with its judgments and exclusions.
On the back of each of your chairs tonight are strips of white cloth. So we invite you to find those now. Tonight we will have the opportunity to journey to the cross, examining our willingness to surrender to love. These cloth strips have been torn to represent that torn temple curtain. They're white to evoke the image of a white flag or a towel, which is a symbol of surrender.
So throughout our Good Friday experience tonight, we'll write on these 3 strips of cloths. And at the end of our time, clear at the end of the service, to symbolize our desire to surrender to love, we'll get up from your chairs and come up to these crosses in the front and place our white cloths on them. And the act of throwing in the towel is meant to demonstrate our willingness to surrender to this love, to the demands of this love, just as Jesus surrendered.
The crosses here are filled with images, and they represent 3 of the major areas of culture that produce violence: politics, economics, and religion. These were the colliding factors for Jesus, and they continue to be the seeds of violence and exclusion in our world. The cross invites us to surrender to love, particularly in these 3 areas. The cross invites us to choose inclusion, grace, justice, mercy, and forgiveness, rather than exclusion, judgment, violence, rage, and hate.
Our next song is a prayer, and it's a challenge that speaks to our desire to understand truly what it means to love. So during this next song, you're invited to do 2 things. First, you're invited to receive communion. Communion is a remembrance of Christ with us, a metaphor of the mystery of the living Christ in us, revealed through us when we choose the cross, when we choose to surrender to love. The bread and the juice are symbols. They remind us of Jesus as the source of our strength and surrender to that love. So whenever you would like, during the next song, just please partake of the elements which are in front of you. I think if you're at those big tables on the side, you'll be served, Rod said. And as you take the elements, remember, the bread. This is the body of Christ, broken for you and you and you and you and you and me. And then take the cup, as you know. And remember, this is Jesus' lifeblood, poured out, pumped out, given for you and you, for all of us.
Secondly, during this next song, you're invited to take your first white cloth strip and a marker that you'll find on your tables and consider the question, what helps me understand and experience God as love? You'll see prompts written on papers scattered on these tables, and those are just to help you remember what we're asking you to ponder throughout the evening. So all of the things that we're asking you to write are listed there on the tables for you. For this first one, write a word or a phrase about that first prompt, how you experience divine love. This could be a person, a place, a song, a memory. Get creative, something altogether different. There's no right or wrong answer here.
So as we do that, I'm just going to pray for just a moment. God, may this song be our guiding prayer tonight as we seek to learn what it means to surrender to love, and by doing that, participate in the healing of our world. Amen.
Show me what it means to love. Show me what it means to love. Open up my eyes to see what I'm scared of. Show me what it means to give. Show me what it means to give. What I need to sacrifice so others live. Show me what it means when everything's stripped away. The only thing that remains is the love I gave away. The love I gave away. On my final day, all that will count as gain is the love I gave away. The love I gave away. I don't want to live this life only for the sake of mine. Show me where my selfishness must go to die. Show me that I've had enough. I don't need to store it up. Everything I hold too tight will turn to dust. Show me what it means when everything's stripped away. The only thing that remains is the love I gave away. The love I gave away. And on my final day, all that will count as gain is the love I gave away. The love I gave away. The love I gave away, the love I gave away. And on my final day, all that will count as gain is the love I gave away, the love I gave away.
Said you never leave me, that nothing could ever stop your love. And up remove a mountain just to tell me that you're not far. don't know if I believe it. I don't know how to receive all that you give. I don't know how else to say it. Somehow I keep falling more in love with you.
Stuck at the bottom, and all my thoughts are foolish patterns. You say that when you're running, neither heaven or hell could hold you back. Don't know if I believe it. Don't know how to receive all that you give. Don't know how else to say it. Somehow I keep falling more in love with you.
I've come to believe that our culture trained me to see in binary or dualistic or monochrome. People are either right or wrong, left or right, black or white, male or female, friend or foe, Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative, straight or gay. Oh, and my religious background doesn't feel much better. There is the lost for the found, the saved or the unsaved, the faithful or the unfaithful. And the training has worked, at least in me. At work, I know which people are reliable and which people are unreliable. In my neighborhood, I know who is kind and who is unkind. The car you drive, where you get your news from, the church you attend or don't attend, all factor into my discernment supercomputer that can determine whether you are friend or enemy with very little data. So when I think about surrendering to love, especially love of an enemy, I am completely disoriented. If surrendering to love just meant to not be unkind to an enemy, no problem. I can simply avoid my enemy, keep my mouth closed, or walk a different route in the neighborhood. But I am thinking that not being unkind is quite different than being loving. If loving means I have to give myself away, if loving means sacrificing for, and actually being kind to an enemy? Well, that I am not sure about. But in the moments I have been able to muster the strength to show kindness to my unreliable coworker, unkind neighbor, or political opposite, I feel like my discernment supercomputer is getting new data. It's the loving that destroys the dualistic binary categories. It's the loving that embraces the complexity of our shared humanity. Ultimately, I do want love to lead my interactions with my enemies, so I guess I will just keep surrendering to it, or trying to.
I've never really struggled to love people. I find myself very quick to forgive someone. I don't really enjoy conflict and would rather just move on, even if I'm right. I think I have a pretty tough outer layer, and by that I mean I don't take offense too easily and can assume the best in others. I mean, I get that we're all having bad days every day. It's just a matter of how bad it is, right? But I can't seem to surrender to love when thinking about myself. When people say that we're our own worst critic, I think I'm ground zero for that. I can't get past my own faults and failures. I just get so angry at myself. Why did I say that? Why didn't I say that? Why did I take this job? Why didn't I take this job? Why don't they love me? Why don't I love them? I'm working too much, or I'm working too little. All these voices feel like I should trust them because they sound like my own voice, or the voices of the people that loved me, or at least were supposed to love me. Honestly, I don't know if I can surrender to love, at least loving myself, because I really don't think I deserve it. I know I'll disappoint others, and I hate myself for that. Even when things are going well, I just know it. I know it. I know that I will mess it up. I can surrender to love for everyone else in my life because I know what it's like to need love, but I can't believe it for myself. But I suppose I can start small. At least that's what my heart tells me. Surrendering to love for me may be just starting with giving myself permission to not have to be anyone other than myself. I really do want to feel better about me. I do want to surrender to love for my own sake. I'm just not sure if I believe that I can. But I guess I can try. I'll probably fail like always, but I can definitely try.
We all struggle to surrender to love. Perhaps surrendering to love is another way of talking about the scriptural concept of dying to self. Jesus talked about daily taking up our cross. Paul, in his letter to the Corinthians, says that he dies daily. The language is a bit morbid. filled with mystery and pain and loss.
Surrendering to love in the big stuff is one thing, right? I mean, what will I do when I come into differing thoughts or opinions, philosophies around these three: politics, economics, and religion? I mean, can I surrender to love by listening and holding space for others, by not scapegoating and turning them into the problem? But maybe even the bigger question is, how do I surrender to love in my everyday life?
We just heard three voices that represent common ways that we struggle to believe that love is truly capable. We struggle to believe that love actually works in the tension of our families, our work, or even our own selves.
In the shadow of the cross, the men and women who followed Jesus, the ones who put their hope in the vision for their country, struggled to believe it. I mean, was it over? I mean, really? Could in the inclusion of sinners and tax collectors really make a difference? Could there be freedom for the oppressed without violence?
During this next song, we invite you to take a second white strip of cloth and write a word or two that speaks truthfully to where you struggle to surrender to love. It could be where or who you struggle to love. Where do you naturally choose hate, revenge, or exclusion? It could be in a macro area like politics, religion, or economics, or in the micro area of a relationship with a sister, or brother, coworker, father, mother, or partner.
It could be where you have believed a lie about yourself or a lie about God. Or perhaps you want to write what you believe makes you unworthy to receive love or incapable of loving. What failure has defined your ability to create hope? What pain in your past holds you back from surrendering to love's power flowing through you towards yourself or toward others?
This second strip of cloth represents not only an honest confession of where you are, but also a prayer of hope for where you might grow in your surrender to love.
What looks like failure is success. What looks like poverty is riches. When what is true looks more like a knife, looks like you're killing me, but you're saving my life. And I give myself to what looks like love, and I sell myself to what feels like love, and I pay to get when what is beautiful looks broken and crushed. I say I don't know you. You say it's finished.
The Gospel of Matthew tells us that Jesus himself had moments of struggle, struggling to surrender to love and to the cost of that love. The night that he was betrayed and arrested, all 4 canonical Gospels tell of Jesus praying through this struggle. And Mark, Gospel of Mark, describes the internal struggle, the fear and anxiety in Jesus, in these words that Jesus spoke to Peter and to James and to John while they were together.
Mark 14:34 says, "Then they came to a place named Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, 'Sit here while I pray.' He took with him Peter, James, and John, and he began to be troubled and distressed. Then he said to them, 'My soul is sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and keep watch.' He advanced a little and fell to the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass by him. He said, 'Abba, Father, all things are possible to you. Take this cup away from me.'"
Those are the honest words of a person struggling to surrender to love. Jesus struggled. The cost of his conviction to demonstrate God's love, to bring an alternative vision of God to his people, was simply overwhelming. And in that space, he's honest with others, and he prays this prayer of struggle.
He didn't stop with his struggle and his prayer for another way. He also prayed a prayer of surrender. His words are powerful. "Not my will, but your will be done." This was his prayer of surrender. So, what is your prayer of surrender this evening? It would be easy to stop with the struggle, to stay in our doubt and our pain, but faith moves us to action, even with our struggles and our doubts and our pain. Faith is believing against all odds that love, regardless of the personal cost, will always win.
So during this final song, take your 3rd strip of cloth and write a word or phrase that captures your prayer of surrender. And once you've done that, I invite you to move from your table and bring your 3 torn strips of cloth and throw them at one of these crosses. You can throw them at the foot of the cross. You can hang them on the cross anywhere. This throwing in the towel moment is our way of surrendering to love, even when it's difficult. This is our response to the cross. This is our struggle and our surrender coming together in faith. And in this action, we're receiving love and asking for the strength to give love. It represents our desire to see the love that was displayed in Jesus on Good Friday poured out into us and then through us into the world. So anytime during the next song, just write and come forward.
hope they see it, 'cause I wanna see it. I hope we believe it, 'cause I wanna see the love that's all around you, all around you. I wanna know that love is all around you, all around you. Day by day, hope fades away, and then we know that there is pain we cannot medicate. Learn to feel, learn to begin again, open our eyes again to see our brother's pain. I hope they see it, 'cause I wanna see it. I hope we believe it, 'cause I wanna see the love that's all around you. It's all around you. I wanna know that love is all around you. It's all around you. See how it lights you up. It lights you up. See how it lights you up. See how it lights you up. It lights you up. I wanna see the love that's all around you, all around you. I wanna know that love is all around you, is all around you.
Good Friday reminds us that surrendering to love is a surrender to suffering. It is surrendering to the pain that love will always ask of us. That's the cross. That's the model, the cruciform life.
Would you stand with me or with us as we pray? If you're able. So God, tonight we long for ears to hear and eyes to see the goodness of the suffering that came from Jesus surrendering to love. We understand and see the crucifixion of Jesus as the standard operating procedure of our world. Violence, injustice, and execution. It's the way the world works. We see the execution of Jesus as an example of the greatest display of love which came with the greatest cost.
Tonight, we weep and mourn with the disciples and those whose hopes for their future were lost when Jesus gave up his spirit and died on that cross. We hold space for the doubt and questions, the disbelief and brokenheartedness of this moment.
We have the benefit of history and the resurrection to understand the power of this moment, the power of the vision of Jesus for his people, a vision that spread beyond the first century, beyond the Jewish homeland and into our homes today, right now in the 21st century.
God, grant us the courage to surrender to love and consider the cost to our humanity every time we choose the path of violence, exclusion, and judgment. We're grateful beyond words, God, for your love. Be with us as we leave this place. In the busyness of our lives, may we consider the thoughts and feelings of those first disciples who found themselves on Saturday wondering, what did it all mean? Amen.
Thank you for joining us for our Good Friday service. Go in peace.